Chris Voss gave me a huge 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon, and I'm grateful to him for bringing you today's video. Teysa Karlov versus Sauron. To lander, need to pray that we can get into another land to get that card draw, but we're on the draw, so we'll try it. Alright, and do manage to get into a land, so get our black mana intact. Our opponent has a Field of Ruin, which is noteworthy, and gets down an Arcane Signet. Seems as though it's gone for a Lord of the Rings theme, so maybe this is some kind of pre-com. Alright, draw into Beseech the Mirror, gonna need tokens for that. But with this we're able to go for a number of really good ones. There's the Moth creature that brings things back in with flying counters, the One Ring, Pitiless Plunderer, Grave Pact. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we can get with Beseech the Mirror. So well worth having in here, I think. Mirkwood Bats could be another means of an aristocrat type effect. Unfortunately, we're going to have to discard to hand size with this Read the Bones, but this will put us steps closer towards making lands consistently. A Woe Strider we could discard to hand size, but it might be best to just keep hold of a sack outlet here. So put both of these on top, and the Woe Strider will give us a token as well for Beseech the Mirror once we get into enough black mana, which we should be able to make with the Fetid Heath actually. So let's just get rid of the Meathook Massacre. We've got quite a few aristocrat effects in hand. We'll just hope that we don't need a board wipe. And that was a deep analysis for our opponent, so sticking at 7 cards in hand. Alright, a Nether Traitor. So if we manage to make another land next turn, we can go for both Woe Strider and the Nether Traitor. So do we want Pitiless Plunderer here to try and start making some treasure tokens, better fix our mana? Might be an idea to go for the Woe Strider this turn so that we can do the Beseech the Mirror thing in for the One Ring, but I'm just hoping that we'll be able to keep the Pitiless Plunderer in play and carry on making treasure tokens. A Port of Carfell is able to reanimate a creature, and then flashing back the Deep Analysis, so drawing 2 cards again. And then down to 7 card, there is a Demon's Disciple, so not able to keep hold of the Pitiless Plunderer. Alright, a Monastery Mentor. Yeah, I think we are just best going for the Woe Strider here. We can't play anything into the Monastery Mentor to make a token. So this is a guarantee of a token for the Beseech the Mirror. Careful Study is draw 2, discard 2. So going for a reanimation theme clearly, as the Port of Carfell will suggest. And getting rid of Inferno Titan and Lord of the Nazgul. And then playing out the Wayfarer's Bauble, playing and cracking that. And our opponent taps out again, so Necromancy is able to go after something here. The Inferno Titan can get rid of both creatures. Yep, and that means that we lose out on this token annoyingly, so might as well scry and try and get into a land. That is a Get Lost, which is going to be good on the Inferno Titan. So yeah, I suppose we just keep hold of that. So we know we're not drawing into a land here. We can go after the Nether Traitor though, so we'll at least do that. Fetid Heath keeping us in the black mana. And then I'll just go for the Get Lost now, onto the Necromancy. Could do it onto the Inferno Titan, I don't think it really matters which way around we do it. And just swinging for one with Nether Traitor because it does have haste. Noteworthy that we have enough creatures in the bin to escape the Woe Strider now as well. But there is Sauron, Lord of the Rings, so an Orc army comes in and able to deal with the Nether Traitor. So dealing with absolutely everything here because the Inferno Titan came back into play. And we're just not getting into lands here, unfortunately, so just go for the Teysa Karlov here, I think, because it can dodge the Lightning Bolt from the Inferno Titan. I think we're already done here, just cannot get into lands. A map token being cracked by our opponent there, revealing to us a volcanic island. And then cracking the map token again, we saw a Faithless Looting that time. And now gonna smash in for a hell of a lot of damage, we'll just take it here. And we go plummeting down to 12. And casting the Faithless Looting from hand. Discarding a Plague Crafter and a Mystic Retrieval. Then throwing out the first Nazgul that we've seen in this game. Making his commander the Ring Bearer. So we're basically just after a board wipe now, but even then we're not doing anything because we don't have any mana, still no lands. So yeah, we'll just say good game to our opponent and we will leave it there. Try and get into a game where we've actually got some mana. Alright, up against Anawan this time with a 1-lander, doesn't bode well. Shame because it's a good hand that. And then in typical Magic Online fashion, into a bunch of lands, but hardly anything to do. We'll keep this and hope that there's a bunch of cheap rogues come down into the Massacre Worm. Get rid of the Godless Shrine, we can fetch that out immediately. Mystic Remora on turn 1. A Polluted Delta on our turn, so go for that Godless Shrine that we put back. Paying into the Mystic Remora, not in a particular rush to get down the Lightning Greaves while we're not doing anything else. And it's a Scry land for our opponent. We'll keep having them tap out into the Mystic Remora, it's fine with me. There's a hidden stockpile as well. So if they decide to keep the Mystic Remora again, I think I will go for the Lightning Greaves, because we'll want to go for Teysa on turn 4. And again, they are tapping out. And then it's into Bloodchief Ascension, which we need to be wary of. I've cracked my fetches now, which is good. Do you need to lose 2 life to this? Yeah, 2 or more life, so the fetches are safe. Another landing swamp. We go from one extreme to the other, so yeah, play the swamp. We'll go for the Lightning Greaves. Give our opponent a card draw. Mystic Remora drawing just 1 card is fine. Deciding to let go of Mystic Remora by turn 4, so 1 mana to draw 1 card, like I said. And there we see the first rogue is the Commander, which is unusual for an Anawan deck. And another land for us, so get out of Plains. It's Teysa Karlov with the Lightning Greaves attached. And we need to start getting into some actual death trigger shenanigans if we can. Alright, well there's a bribery. Not sure if we have any... Can't remember if we have any changelings or rogues in the deck, but able to grab whatever he wants here. It's Ashen Rider for our opponent from the bribery, so that exiles the Lightning Greaves, and when it dies it'll exile something as well. There is a sack outlet, another one, so we'll go for the hidden stockpile here and just set up with a couple of sack outlets, I suppose. Got the mana and the sack outlets this time, but no means of doing anything with death triggers, so pass and wait for our opponent to do some more stuff. Obelisk of Erd, going to name rogues, that will be +2/+2 onto the rogues, so got a 4/6 commander and a 5/5 Ashen Rider to face down here. We will just take the damage. And this time we do see a plus counter, or a charge counter on the Bloodchief Ascension. Did Miller's there as well, just got rid of a bunch of mana. And into the One Ring, which I am not against seeing. It's noteworthy that the One Ring will start to tick up the Bloodchief Ascension though. So let's crack a Flooded Strand right now, and then get down the One Ring. So we've got protection for a turn. The main thing is card draw here, so draw a card. That is Pitiless Plunderer for even more mana. We want bits of tokens and stuff that we can sacrifice really. Might as well swing in because our opponent can't hit us anyway. Hidden Stockpile is a servo token, so we can at least sacrifice that into the Pitiless Plunderer to make mana. The Scarab God now doesn't have too many zombies in play, doesn't have any zombies in play, but he's looking to reanimate stuff with that clearly. So it looks like it's a mill theft reanimation strategy that our opponent's going for. Not going to lose enough life to the One Ring here in order to trigger the Bloodchief Ascension, so we'll hold off on the fetch as well. And there's a Fetid Heath anyway, so don't have to go for it. The One Ring will start putting plus counters on this next turn though, because it has 2 burden counters on it. Right, Demolition Field, don't think is of any relevance. So let's go Fetid Heath into the Pitiless Plunderer. And I'll go for the sacrifice on the Hidden Stockpile as opposed to the Cartel Aristocrat, because that will allow us to scry. So I'll just sacrifice the Servo token, which means we get to scry 1, and Pitiless Plunderer is triggered on death, so it triggers twice thanks to the Teysa Karlov. Alright, scry 1, there's a Demonic Tutor, so definitely keep that on top of the library. Not entirely sure what I'll go for with it, but probably one of the better draws we could make. Another token made with the stockpile, so we can sacrifice that in response to blocks. Noteworthy that this only triggers during our end step though, so not going to get another servo token at the end of this turn. Alright, Changeling Outcast is going to be buffed by this thing, which means be tempted to go for the Elspeth Sun's Champion maybe. Gets rid of big powered creatures. Does mean that they'll be able to exile something with this, but they'll probably just go after the Planeswalker. Alright, see how they attack here. We don't need to scry because we know what we've got on top. I was considering giving protection for this so that we could block, but not going to be blocking a flyer anyway. So we're down to 22 thanks to the big hits. Alright, and there's a Scheming Symmetry, so we're going to be able to put something on top of our library here. Do we just save ourselves 2 mana and go for the Elspeth Sun's Champion? So yeah, I suppose so. Let's try the Elspeth Sun's Champion. Could be a one-sided board wipe for us. Another argument is a Grave Pact or something, but the token generation isn't great at the moment. The penultimate counter goes on the Bloodchief Ascension. I think this needs 3. Yeah, 3 or more quest counters for it to start draining us. Alright, so the One Ring going to make the Bloodchief Ascension relevant at the end of this turn. And obviously draw into what we tutored for, so let's just make it another basic. And we'll play the Elspeth Sun's Champion. Hope our opponent doesn't have Counter Magic being the last card in his hand. Alright, and that is able to land, so minus down. And that will destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. Alright, so the Scarab God could return to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. I dare say they'll do that. And then, as we said, going after the Elspeth with the Ashen Rider. Don't suppose we'll be able to do anything to protect Elspeth, but we might as well draw some cards with the One Ring, just in case. Nope, nothing we can do there, so allow Elspeth to go down. And then we can draw more cards with the Sign in Blood. Need to start getting into our Aristocrat effect so that we can counteract the Bloodchief Ascension. And there we go, talked it up, a Zulaport Cutthroat, so let's play that. And luckily we've got the Cartel Aristocrat to still sacrifice the Servo token, although we'll have this trigger anyway, because we lost some treasure tokens there, so yeah, maybe leave the Servo token in play while it's gaining us incremental life. Still no idea what our opponent's tutored for, of course. But knocking our opponent down to 30, we remain at 19 life. Another Servo token going to come down. And the final counter, as we've been anticipating all game on Bloodchief Ascension. Scarab God does go back to the hand. Okay, well that's ominous. Our opponent just passing the turn, so is that 4, 5, 6, 7? Did they tutor for a Cyclonic Rift? We'll test them with a Grand Abolisher. No doubt that they will do the Rift in response to a Grand Abolisher. Right, there's a Dark Prophecy we need to be really careful with. So yeah, Command Tower, and immediate Grand Abolisher. Alright, and allowing it down, which is curious, so now we know that they can't do anything during this turn. Go for the One Ring, which arguably shouldn't go for, because we're going to have to discard to hand size. Plumb the Forbidden, nowhere near as good now. Dictate of Erebos is decent, but do we play that during our opponent's turn after the Rift? Anyway, we will just swing in here. Takes our opponent down to 22. And do we have any permanents go down this turn? I'm not sure. I'll sacrifice a Servo token just in case, because we want to maximise the Aristocrat damage here. So going for the Ophiomancer as well. That means we only discard 1 card at least. And I'll go for the Scry with the Hidden Stockpile. Get rid of a Servo token. I think Bloodchief Ascension only triggers on cards specifically. Yeah, that is worth knowing. Doesn't come up very often, but if a permanent does say card, or a card in general's effect says card specifically, then it doesn't count towards tokens. Tokens are permanents, but they are not cards. So we can sacrifice a Servo token here and not lose out on the Bloodchief Ascension. Zulaport Cutthroat makes a couple of pings, and we do get a couple of treasure tokens. We get a Scry here as well. Alright, there's a Viscera Seer as another sack outlet. Probably not worth keeping, we'll put that on the bottom. And we'll go for another Scry with the Hidden Stockpile, seeing as how we don't know what's on top. So again, it's double Zulaport Cutthroats and double Pitiless Plunderer, just really hoping for an Aristocrat effect. Okay, an Austere Command. Yeah, I'll keep that on top just in case our opponent goes for some kind of mass reanimation. Doesn't seem as though we're doing much of anything else here, so we will pass the turn at that. We do get another Servo token. We'll get a Snake during our opponent's turn as well. Discard Marsh Flats to hand size, which will have our opponent drain us for 2, so goes back up to 20. The Bloodchief Ascension is going to be a pain. Plenty of removal for that, but just not drawing into it, unfortunately. So we are each at 20. Here's the Snake during every upkeep. I'll leave it as late as possible to go for the Sacrifice with the Scry on Hidden Stockpile, because again, we might not care about having Austere Command on top. Alright, yeah, and that's curious. Our opponent went for the Cyclonic Rift now, when he could have done it in response to Grand Abolisher. Not sure what the aim is there, but not too worried about keeping hold of Austere Command then. Let's go Hidden Stockpile, sacrificing a servo. Means that we're not taking as much life to the one ring as well, at least. So Austere Command can now go on the bottom. And we'll get rid of the Snake token as well. Again, not triggering the Bloodchief Ascension thanks to them being tokens. Alright, and there is a Sol Ring, which I don't think we particularly need either. Just want to be getting closer to these Aristocrat effects. So we will float the mana on the treasure tokens. I wonder if we want to go for Plumb the Forbidden on anything. I don't think we really need to. So floating all that mana, mainly thinking of the Dictate of Erebos we can do before our opponent decides to pass through to the next phase. And we have priority, so go for the Dictate of Erebos. Obviously decided against the Plumb the Forbidden. Although I suppose there's nothing to stop us doing it now, is there? Draw another card. So we'll lose a life to that, then lose a couple of life to the Bloodchief Ascension, allowing our opponent back up to 18. That got us into a Reliquary Tower, which isn't the worst land to see here. And then drawing into another sack outlet in the Woe Strider this time. Get down Reliquary Tower. And we'll play ourselves a Cartel Aristocrat as a free sack outlet. Then it can be the Ophiomancer, because that's consistent tokens every turn. And then it is Zulaport Cutthroat as well, I think. And I suppose we might as well get down the Hidden Stockpile so that we can scry on our opponent's turn if we want to. So again, Ophiomancer during the upkeep. And there's a Knowledge Exploitation. Search an opponent's library for an instant or sorcery and you can cast it, so maybe goes for a board wipe here. We really want to be seeing the back of that Bloodchief Ascension. It's very much helping to keep our opponent in this game. Alright, and goes for that Austere Command, so all creatures basically. So we might as well, if we're going to lose these creatures anyway, go for a scry. And we'll lose the Snake token, just draining our opponent for 1. Triggering the Dictate of Erebos for the first time, we will keep that in play. It'll be difficult for our opponent to keep creatures in. And there we see a Nether Traitor, which don't particularly want, like I keep saying, we want the Aristocrat effects to show up. So that will drain us for a bunch, but the Zulaport Cutthroat will gain us some more life first at least. Biggest issue is that our opponent's gaining life during all this. So we end up at 17, our opponent's up to 22 again. Alright, and a Monastery Mentor. Again, not many means of generating tokens from that. Go for the Reflecting Pool to fix colours a bit better. And I think we can afford Pitiless Plunderer, Teysa Karlov and Woe Strider. This will put a token into play, give us a scry, and make a Hidden Stockpile counter, or Hidden Stockpile token. So let's try Teysa Karlov first. Then it's the Pitiless Plunderer. And we'll go for this Woe Strider. Now our opponent, I was going to say, our opponent's stopping on our during our turn here, so seems as though he had something. Its Rapid Hybridization goes onto the Teysa Karlov. That will go back into the command zone. Do still get the treasure tokens, 2 treasure tokens and 2 Dictate of Erebos triggers. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand, so we'll get somewhere eventually. Our commander did hit the bin technically and then went to the command zone from there, so we still got drained. And down comes a token here, so I wonder if we should get down the Grand Abolisher now, or should we just go for the 1 ring now? Need to be digging further into our library, so sacrifice a goat for a scry, and we'll get just the 1 treasure token here. Alright, there's a land, don't want to see a land. Got a decent amount of power in play here, so I'm just going to go for the Grand Abolisher, I think. And this will leave us a treasure to crack into the Hidden Stockpile next turn as well, so that we can make another token. 2 cards in hand at the beginning of our opponent's turn. Be intrigued to see how he can wriggle out of this one. Well, apparently he can't. Admirably playing it out and seeing what card he draws into, but doesn't feel as though we can wriggle out of this. So we've got 3, 6, 9 and 10 damage next turn. Drawing into the Demonic Tutor again, so that can go after an Aristocrat effect, so maybe we get down our commander again, and then a Bastion of Remembrance or whatever it's called. The 3 mana enchantment, and we'll definitely be able to continue to chip away at our opponent there. So yeah, the Hidden Stockpile doing some work for us there. It was able to consistently give us the tokens that we needed in order to sacrifice into Zulaport Cutthroat effects. So yeah, worked out quite nicely. There's just a lot of pieces that you need to get going with Teysa Karlov, but it's a fun deck and I haven't played it in a very long time, so hopefully you all enjoyed seeing it again. Big thank you goes out to the patrons for their financial support of the channel, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.